Welcome into Road to the Draft, presented by Raymond James. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. And like we do every week leading up to the draft, we talk about all the things we're hearing, seeing about what the Bucs might do in the draft. This is what everybody loves this time of year, all the prognosticating. And, I think last week we talked about rounds 2 and 3. We wanted to give some of those other rounds some love, so we weren't just talking about round 1. But let's be honest, that's what everybody gets most excited about, is that round 1, that first night of the draft. So let's get back to that sweet spot, talk a little bit about the first round. But unlike other years where we've picked higher, while we love the reason we're picking lower, it does make things a little bit murkier in terms of what you think the team might do, that there's less of a consensus because there are so many options. So as you've been looking at mock drafts and kind of assessing what everybody else seems to think the team is going to do, are there certain things that seem to have coalesced together? Are we still thinking nobody really knows what's happening? What are some of the themes you've noticed of what people think the Bucs might do?
You're talking about all the things we're hearing and seeing. It would be a lot easier to do this if Jason Light would just tell us what he's thinking.
I don't know why he won't just tell us. It's so sad. We're right down the hall, Jason. Come let us know.
This would make our job a lot easier.
Yeah.
It would make his job a lot harder, though, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, there is that. We don't need to tell him that part, though.
So even last year when the Bucs picked 32nd, and that was for the best reason of all, there still was a pretty decent consensus that defensive or edge rusher was where the Buccaneers would end up landing on, and that's what happened, obviously. This year, you're right. I don't think we even have that sort of consensus. And honestly, a lot of the mock drafts are still matching the Bucs up with a guard like Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson. And I've done that earlier in the offseason a little bit in mock drafts, but I'm still of the opinion, I could see the Bucs doing that if they really like one of these players.
Right.
But I'm not sure that they're going into this draft focused on guard. I think they like Aaron Stinnie a lot. I think they like a lot of the other players they have, like Robert Hainsey and John Molchon. And, we signed Fred Johnson. Nick Leverett got to play last year. There's a lot of depth there and a lot of options. So I'm personally of the opinion, and I think that I have sort of stated that in recent ones, that defensive positions are more likely. Like another edge rusher. We've talked about a couple guys, but another guy that's been coming up in mock drafts that's been rising up the board a little bit is Penn State's Arnold Ebukati, because, a lot of these edge rushers are going to go up the board, and you're not going to be able to get the guy that you thought you could get at 27 because he's going 20th or whatever. So then you start looking a little bit farther down. We talked about Minnesota's Boye Mafe, and now Arnold Ebukati has been really shooting up quite a bit. A really talented guy, fast, big, and really probably has a potential to unlock even more in his pass rush game. Some good moves already, some a good tool set already. And we've talked a little bit about defensive line. Interior defensive line. We've talked about Devontae Wyatt of Georgia before. In my most recent mock draft, I actually got Georgia's Jordan Davis, the other defensive tackle, who's actually in most drafts going a little bit higher than that.
Right.
But in this particular one, he was there for the Bucs. I don't know if that'll happen, but it could happen because the thing about Jordan Davis is so far he hasn't been much of a pass rusher. So are you going to use the 15th pick in the draft on a guy that's mainly a run stopper?
Right.
Some teams might not want to do that, and maybe he'll last a little bit longer. But the thing about him is, while he's already a well-established great run stopper, he really has, because of his athletic measurables, he really has potential to be more of a pass rusher. So if you draft him high, you're probably thinking maybe he'll become more of a two-way guy who can do more, but maybe he'll last. But above all that, there's another defensive position that I think we haven't talked about very much.
And I bet people will be shocked to hear what that is, that you are. I feel like if there was like a PR firm for cornerbacks, you should work there.
You got me.
Yeah, that you are basically like the salesperson of having cornerbacks. You should be their agent.
I would go to your door and say, you have cornerbacks?
Yeah.
You don't have enough.
You don't have enough.
You think you have enough cornerbacks. You think you have the perfect vacuum. This vacuum's better.
This is better.
You need more corners. And I'm knocking on every door trying to convince everybody.
Yes, so tell me your argument for corner.
Part of the reason is, we saw Carlton Davis re-signed, but we weren't sure we were going to be able to re-sign him. Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean are both pending free agents next year. You're not guaranteed you're going to get these guys back. Jordan Whitehead left. And as we saw last year, and as we've seen in some other seasons, you can't have enough cornerback depth because guys get hurt. And then if you have to go to your third, fourth, fifth option, they're not going to be as good as these guys. So it never hurts to draft a cornerback, and I think there's good depth. Like a guy like Kyler Gordon of Washington might be there, or Kair Elam of Florida might be there at the end of the first round. This is Kyler Gordon. He's from Washington, and we've already had some good luck drafting guys out of Washington.
That seems like that's gone well. We're just creating a Washington East over here.
So I'm sure that Joe and Vita would appreciate this pick. But I really think that a cornerback at the end of the first round makes a lot of sense for the Buccaneers, and it's even a guy that could get on the field right away. He could obviously right away help out on special teams if he has those skills, which he probably will as a cornerback. But I'm telling you, at some point in the season, even if he's your fourth cornerback, you're going to need him.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, well, that is some of our thoughts on what the Bucs might do in the first round. We have one more of these, which is very exciting because that means the draft is just around the corner. So stay tuned to Buccaneers.com for all of our coverage leading up to it, and we'll see you next week.